Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's Student Bulletin. It is great to see all of you. We've got Erna checking in, Celeste is here, Sandra, Bonnie, Robert. I love when you guys give weather reports where you're checking in from. It just makes me feel so happy because some of you are getting sunshine when I'm not getting sunshine. And I also just like hearing what's going on in the atmosphere in other parts of the world. So that's kind of cheesy, but I think it's really fun. So I'm glad you guys share kind of what you're seeing out your window. We have Karen checking in. Midori is here from Mexico, which is really cool. I bet it's nice and sunny, hopefully. Renat is here. Biz checking in as well. Stephanie, Lisa. So good to see all of you, and welcome. Well, so this segment each week is a time for us to dive into looking at some amazing art that you all share in our community in the schoolyard. And so, without further ado, we should probably jump right into that. But I want to start off just by saying every week I am always so inspired. And I am super lucky that I get to call this thing a job, that is looking at the art that you guys make and sharing it and talking about it. And it just makes me really happy every week. I'm super grateful that all of you are so creative and so willing to share that with our community. So thank you to all of you that are here, that share your art on a daily basis, a weekly basis, monthly basis. We love seeing it, so keep it coming, and thanks for contributing to this really colorful community that we have. And speaking of colorful, I wanted to share this beautiful landscape from Wayne, who is kind of revisiting some travel images, and he did this image of a ranch in Douglas, Wyoming. And I just love kind of the warm tones of this. And I don't know, I've been really drawn to things lately that are from other places. I've been really itching to travel, which is obviously something we can't do right now in the United States, or mainly anywhere. But I love seeing images of places that are foreign to me or places that are just on the other side of the country. So Wayne, thanks for sharing that. Looks like Kathy is also here, and so is Crystal. So good to see those familiar names popping up. Another student, Susan, has been drawing some otherworldly subjects. She's been focusing on space, and I think this is so fun because space machines and technology, and do you call them space machines? That doesn't sound right. Space implements? I'm not sure. But things that go into space are really interesting to look at, and I love that Susan is kind of focusing on those as subjects. They've got lots of weird parts and pieces and shapes, and they don't look like anything that we see on Earth, obviously. They don't look like cars or construction vehicles. So I love looking at these. Susan, thank you for sharing that. More emphasis on things that are from far away. Patrick was actually having a hard time getting motivated. He was kind of in a slump, and he decided to draw something that he looks at every single day because he owns a motel. Another thing kind of hinting at travel. So him and his wife own a motel, and he was just staring at the keys that hang in front of his desk every day. And I love this really colorful, simple drawing. Lisa says apparatus. We'll go with that, space apparatus. Thank you, Lisa, for being my SAT vocabulary maven that I apparently didn't study up on when I was in school. Another piece of art that Nicole shared was this beautiful portrait. She's been experimenting with watercolor, and she was following along with the freehand drawing prompts that students have been posting in the schoolyard on Fridays, and the prompt was character. And I just love this character. I kind of feel like if she were a real person, she would be in like a Wes Anderson film. She kind of has that look about her and that extreme haircut. So Nicole, thank you for sharing that with us. It's so cool. Nanda has been documenting things on her daily walks that are discarded or left behind. And I just was really drawn to this image. So she drew a glove that someone forgot or dropped, maybe didn't realize they dropped. And I always see things like this and wonder, you start to make up a story about what happened to the other part of that object. Whenever I see a shoe by the side of the road, I'm just wondering, what is that person doing with one shoe? If they lost a shoe on a highway, it always blows my mind, and I wonder. what happened to the other partners of these discarded items? So I love that Nanda was focusing on that for a drawing. And another student, Andy does a lot of watercolor in our community, but lately he's been doing these collages, and I just love these really simple, kind of understated landscapes. The colors he chooses are amazing. They're really subtle, but so beautiful. And so Andy has been really making it work with minimal materials, but he's, creating an image that really says a lot. So Andy, great job. Karen is talking about seeing so many masks discarded on her walks. I know that's such a bummer, the whole kind of waste side of things when it comes to this pandemic, seeing so many discarded masks. But you're right, that would make for a good subject of discarded items. Looks like Heather made it and is checking in. Welcome, Heather. Good to see you. Another artist, Lizzie, has also been going on lots of walks. And she actually focused on a prompt from Urban Sketchers London that was regeneration. And she's been drawing a lot of construction equipment, which I think is a really great way to interpret the word regeneration. Obviously, we're all staying in and sheltering in place, but things are still getting built and constructed and generated. So I really liked that Lizzie was focusing on construction equipment for her prompt focus of regeneration. Also kind of dealing with lockdown, Martine shared this beautiful little sketch. She talks about how she can't go far, obviously. She lives in the Netherlands and they're under a pretty severe quarantine situation, but she can go to a local nature park that's by her house that actually has animals. So she drew a little map and she drew some creatures that she sees at this little park. And I just love this because it's so simple. And she gave us a little map kind of depicting her walk. And I think a lot of us are going on more walks these days. Maybe you were always a walker, but I think one of the only activities left that we can do safely is going for walks in our neighborhood. And I love that Martine is documenting it with a map and just some little snippets about her walks and her journey. And another artist, Chris, kind of is making some art around quarantine and COVID as well. But they tried to make peace with the fact that, we're kind of all stuck at home and we need to slow down and maybe not do a whole lot because there's not as much to do under our own roofs. But Chris made this beautiful kind of little meditative piece that was really calming to me. I'm not sure why, but I found it so soothing. Kind of I don't want to say a positive side to the pandemic, but we'll say it. We'll say some positive things to think about. Things that we're feeling lately because we get to spend more time at home, more quiet time, more time slowing down. So Chris, thank you for sharing this with us. It was a good reminder to me sometimes as I talk about getting the itch for travel and being a little stir crazy. There are some benefits to slowing things down. So I appreciate seeing that in a drawing. So for this week, I hope for some time to draw. I hope you brought your sketchbook, something to draw with. And I know I'm kind of on a food kick, but no surprise. I love food. I love eating food. I love drawing food. Last week we talked about soup because it was National Soup Month. Well, today specifically happens to be National Bagel Day. I love bagels. I don't know about you. Anything carbohydrate related, I am on board for. So I thought that we could draw our favorite bagels. Now, I have a picture of my favorite bagel, which is very polarizing. I love everything bagels. My husband, when we go to the bagel shop, refuses to let me put this in the same bag as his bagel because he says it spreads its disease. So this is my favorite, but I want you to think about your favorite bagel. And if you've never had a bagel, you could do your favorite pastry. But today, officially, January 15th, is National Bagel Day. So I want you to think about your favorite bagel. Karen loves her some carbs. I know, me too. Favorite food group for sure. But I want you to draw a bagel. And this bagel picture in particular is actually a bagel from my favorite bagel shop in Montreal, Canada. I don't know if any of you here are from Montreal, but there's a bagel shop called Saint Viateur, and it is so good. It's kind of like their hometown bagel spot. Whenever my husband used to go visit family in Montreal, we would take back like 4 dozen in our suitcases and freeze them and like parse them out. as the months went by, we would take a few out and try to savor them as long as we could. And I just love them. So I unfortunately ran out of our last batch. We haven't been to Montreal in about a year, which is really sad. Can't really travel there, obviously. But I thought today we could celebrate bagels. And Kathy's asking about when Donut Day is. That's what her husband wants to know. That is a good question. I hope that we will also celebrate that. I will keep that on my radar. But I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. And I just want you to draw your favorite bagel. And as I said, if you don't have a favorite bagel, totally fine. You can draw donuts or your favorite pastry. But I'm going to focus on a bagel. And I also, of course, was looking up bagel facts, because that's what you do, obviously. You read about bagels when you're about to draw one. And I thought it was so funny that they're actually their origins are traced back to like the 15th century in Germany and also Poland. They used to make round pastries with holes in the middle, and they would give them to ladies who just had babies. I don't know why it was like the post-pregnancy gift to give a woman a piece of bread that had a hole in the middle. But I just started making up funny stories in my head, like, oh, she just had a baby, so she has, a hole in her middle because there used to be a baby there. I don't know. It seemed very odd, but it kind of made me laugh. So apparently bagels originated from a pastry in Poland that was given to women after they gave birth. And it looks like Heather is talking about a holiday in southeastern PA because of Pennsylvania Dutch culture. So that's cool to hear about. But Janice is mentioning, oh, she found it. Donut Day is June 4th. Good to know. It's on the calendar on June 4th, even if that's not a Friday. That week, we'll be doing donuts for sure. But for today, it's bagels. And I'm really curious to hear from all of you what your favorite bagels are. As I said before, I love everything bagels, but a lot of people don't feel that way because they're a little strong. So Catherine's mentioning sitting on a donut pillow after birth. Maybe that's the symbol. Why in 14th century, 15th century Poland, they would give women who just gave birth a pastry with a hole in the middle? I don't know, but I'm open to more ideas. Renat is saying that they don't have bagels where she lives, but that the 26th of April is pretzel day. So you could also focus on pretzels. I love a big giant pretzel for sure. But alas, luckily we've got bagels here in the States, and I love them. Yeah, Catherine's talking about Roz's class at SketchCon where she focused on donuts. The hardest part about that is drawing the donut before you get to eat it. That's impossible. I would struggle with that. But as far as bagels are concerned, I also love a good New York bagel. When I would go to New York to work, when Danny lived there, we would have our meetings in New York. I would always bring back a dozen or two bagels from this really good bagel shop. I think it was called Bob's Bagels, maybe. But it was near NYU, really close. And I would walk there and stock up before I went home. And my husband would text me and remind me to put them in separate bags because the contamination threat was real. But at any rate, I kind of liked it when they mingled because that meant that I could eat more bagels because my husband wouldn't touch them. But that's a little selfish. At any rate, I just really love bagels. And I'm curious what other bagels you guys like. Sometimes I like a good salt bagel. You know, the big flaky salt is really yummy. Sometimes my husband's favorite is rosemary, sea salt, olive oil. There's a Jewish deli that makes one of those in our neighborhood that's amazing. Sandra's talking about that they didn't have bagels in her small town until 20 years ago, and that nobody knew what a bagel was at first, which is kind of crazy to think about, but it makes sense. If you've never had one, it's like, what is this? Karen is saying, your husband is the best. Yeah, I'm not going to tell him you said that because his head might get a little big over that comment. But yeah, there's a lot you can do with bagels, for sure. Cheese and jalapeno. Yeah, I love a good Asiago bagel or something cheesy. Definitely. Holly is talking about my favorite seasoning, the everything but the bagel seasoning from Trader Joe's. I put that on everything. I've also been known to put that on an everything bagel with cream cheese just to kind of amp up the everythingness. But that stuff is good if you've never had it. Highly recommend. Good choice, Holly. Also good on other things, not just bagels. But look at that. That was the timer. I just got really carried away thinking about bagels, talking about bagels. Margaret is talking about her favorite being smoked salmon and cream cheese. Ugh, I know. Lox is really popular around here, which is odd because we're in Ohio and we don't really have any coastlines except for the lake. I don't really think you're getting salmon from there. So salmon has to come from far away if we want to enjoy it here. But I'm sure those of you on coastal states get to have some really good lox. But thank you guys for partaking and sharing your bagel loves with me. I could always talk about food, definitely. I hope to see your bagels. If you can share those in the schoolyard, use the student bulletin topic. If you're lucky enough to live near a bagel shop, maybe you'll celebrate today in true bagel fashion. Cecile's mentioning the everything bagel with cream cheese. Ugh. And Erna just asked me, so the picture is an everything bagel from my favorite bagel shop in Canada, in Montreal, called Saint Viateur, and it is my absolute favorite. But that's an everything bagel, which means it has everything on it. It's got poppy seeds, sesame seeds, garlic, salt, pepper, lots of seasoning. Just a really good mix, in my opinion. But thanks again for tuning in, checking out some art this week. I hope to see everyone sharing their bagels in the schoolyard. Kathy's going to Brugger's. Oh, take me with you, Kathy. That sounds great. And I hope that you all have a good rest of your day and an awesome weekend. I will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.